Guys, in the investing world, comparison is the thief of joy, and oftentimes the internet is not reality. While the internet is a excellent place to get financial advice, there's plenty of free books that you can read. There's so many awesome websites, so many great articles you can read, great channels, seasoned professionals, newer people to the investing world, and just, artists on Wall Street bets. There's plenty of fantastic places where you can get quality financial advice to shape your future. However, it's also a great place to get discouraged quickly because, we see it everywhere on places like r slash salary or r slash portfolios. You'll see another kid posting, a 500K portfolio talking about is he going to be financially free later in life? Or, another guy humble bragging that he gets your net worth in his weekly pay stub. If you've seen stuff like this, it's pretty easy to feel like you're behind, or, it might not feel like that you're doing enough. And the truth is, the internet will never really tell you that you're actually doing really well. I see way too many comments and posts about people that are my age, lamenting over the fact that they're just now starting their Roth IRAs, or they don't have 10K saved up in the bank account. But the reality is, you're probably doing fine if you're taking your financial health seriously at a younger age. And we're going to back this up with numbers too in this video. Don't you worry, guys. So today I wanted to just talk about financial health metrics and how you can sort of weigh yourself against the average person, maybe figure out what you need to do going forward, maybe need to take a couple of notes, figure out what you might need to adjust, to get to that financial health that you're aiming towards. We all have our goals, we all have points that we want to get to in life, be they passive income streams, early retirement, maybe getting a nice house, that kind of thing. We're going to talk about all of it today. So the first thing is that the average income in the US for the median earner, so median, not average, this is like the middle 50% guy, because if you have Elon Musk and me in the same room, the average net worth is 250 billion. I think, well, assuming that Elon's is like 500 billion. Actually, no, I don't know what it is right now, but rest assured, I do not have $1 billion. So the average income in the US for the median earner is about 62 grand a year, but these numbers will fluctuate and do vary, state to state. So we can see that there's a lot of 50 to 55K earners on average. So this is roughly what we can expect to base this off of. So this is roughly what the average earner makes. I think household income is also somewhere around $86,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken. So by all accounts, we can, I can tell you for sure in the area that I live in that American financial health is not looking very good these days. And a lot of people are both a lot better off than they realize, but also a lot worse off than they realize. So what we need to look at is how much people have in an emergency fund and whether or not they can actually cover an emergency expense. With the stock market rocketing up all the time, it can feel like you need to be FOMOing every single last dollar into the market. I get that feeling when I see, Micron and SanDisk pump, another 15% day just because, Shrek's dick loves appearing on the candle charts. And it just makes me feel like a terrible person for not putting money into that. But your first priority should always be to set up an emergency fund. We're all about financial safety over here at Dawn Capital, guys. I'm never going to advise you to do that sort of thing, FOMOing into the market. To be completely honest, having that emergency fund is so crucial because this is what allows you to invest worry-free because you don't have to worry about being able to cover an emergency medical, car repair expense, or otherwise. So statistically, this is according to Gemini, so take it with a grain of salt, but around 47% of Americans cannot cover an emergency expense. That's not just like bad, that's like incomprehensibly bad. That means for 47% of Americans, their financial health is totally contingent on not like breaking an arm, having a flat tire, or having to get a root canal and you don't have insurance. You're looking at a credit card bill for the next few months, which will undoubtedly have interest in order to cover that. Now, to not be insensitive to financial predicaments, this is due to a lot of factors: higher inflationary environment, your spending habits, which is highly individual. So depending on how much you spend, it's totally up to you. Potential cost of living area difference, this is another big one. But for general financial health, you need to have this kind of emergency fund. So whether or not, you know, whether you're in a lot of debt due to a mortgage, car payment, or maybe you have student loans, this is something that you just cannot afford to live without. The bottom line is that we should be able to, at the minimum, cover our emergency expenses. So always aim to have about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in a high yield savings account. This is pillar one of a good and healthy financial life. So speaking on bank balances, the next point is that the average bank balance in the US for under 35, which is what this channel is geared towards. If there's any older folks, I'm happy that you guys are here, but I don't possess your experience and wisdom, or life experience. I'm just a 25-year-old guy without any financial certifications, formal training, none of that. I'm just a guy with a mic. But it looks like, under 35, it's about 2,600 at the median level. So, already we're seeing that unless you live in like rural Mississippi or something where rent is like $500 a month, you cannot cover 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. So it's affecting a lot of people in terms of the cost of living environment. We know that, Donald Trump can decide to send interest rates screaming high, with another war in Iran or something like that. But how much you save is how much you will be able to afford to buy in the stock market moving forward. And it'll determine very much how much you can invest realistically. So we know that people are not saving enough. And this also goes a little bit into our next statistic, which indicates that on average, Americans save about only 5% of their earnings. So myself personally, I save about 10% of my paycheck right now towards my emergency fund, which I'll be completing pretty soon. I'm aiming to have about 10K in my high yield savings account. So I'll have that done hopefully, within the next month or two. And once that's completed, I'm going to focus more on my 401k and Roth IRA. Right now, I've already maxed out my Roth for 2026, but I might get started on 2027. Maybe I'll tick up my 401k contribution a little bit more because I don't need to be saving any more money. And I invest about 25 to 30% of my paycheck into my taxable brokerage account. And for me, I do live in a higher cost of living area, and this is a bit of a constrained amount, but I'm trying to get it as ahead as possible before I have a family, because this is my philosophy. This is sort of how I rationalized it. I love going on the compound interest calculator and seeing how much money I'm going to have in like 20, 30 years. It's going to be great. I'm really excited for it, but I base all of that on my current projected contributions toward my investment accounts. So for right now, that's about, $12,000 to $15,000 that I can afford to put towards my individual taxable brokerage. And I'm basing my figures on that moving forward, because even though I'm sure my salary will increase and I'll make more money and I'll financially set myself up better, at the same time, I recognize that when I do have kids and when I do have a family, that's going to dramatically constrain how much I'm able to invest. So we should be increasing our savings account and investing amount dramatically, because living below your means is what translates to financial freedom. It's what sort of gives you that financial buffer, especially once you start a family, so you can afford to take your kids out for ice cream and don't have to explain them why you're still bag holding Meta. Or bag holding Figma, let's say. Look up that chart. It's down massive. I might buy. Not financial advice. And finally, the final point I wanted to look at is talking about the amount that we actually have in our retirement savings. So the median for under 35 is about $19,000. So by the time that you hit 35, around, $20,000, let's say. So for example, if you're at 10K by 25, you're ahead. If you're at 50K by 30, you're really ahead. Any amount is a good amount, because the dollars now matter more than later, because this is the most powerful the dollar is probably going to be for a long time in our life. Unless we get some magic, deflationary spiral and we bring back the, gold standard because Nixon's zombie body, came back and decided that we were going to stop with fiat currency. As much as I would love to see that, I'd live for the destruction of the Fed. Realistically, dollars now count more, so contribute as much as you can. For transparency, I have about $12,000 in my 401k. I've been working for about a year and a half, and I have about $15,000 in my personal Roth IRA. So I'm trying to continue to max out my Roth every year. I'm trying to increase my 401k contributions, because with time and compounding, it absolutely is going to matter more what I'm contributing now. And this is a lie that a lot of people fall into, is why invest if you can't contribute a sufficient amount, a couple $100s a month? I can absolutely promise you that it matters more now than later. So realistically, guys, like, nobody is really ready for retirement. We want to live our lives as though we have the financial freedom to do so. We want to live within our means, but there will come a time where, you don't work anymore. And hopefully that point isn't going to be when you're like 65 to 68 years old. The average death age in America is just under 80. So you work for 45 years of your life and then you just, kick it after 10 to 12 years. Like, that's not the kind of life I want. It's not the life I want for you. So the number one thing is, you got to stay healthy out here, man. You got to be working out. You got to be going to the gym. You got to be exercising. Take care of your health, because your body, it's the only one you'll ever have. It's the most important investment you'll ever make. So let's try to strive for financial freedom earlier in life so that we can enjoy the fruits of our work, of our discipline at an earlier point, so that, we're not just able to enjoy the final years of our life. That's not, retirement isn't retirement. It's the final years of our life for so many people. I don't want to live for, 65 years, haven't worked all of it, can't pay as much attention to my kids or grandkids. I want to retire early and have freedom so I can live as much as I can for my family. So, by the time most of us retire, we'll have lived 75% of our lives. So the only way to really expedite that is by investing now, living below your means, and remaining consistent. It'll determine how much you leave to your kids, how you live your final years, how your family remembers you. So guys, I'm begging you, please consider these things. And if you can, adjust the way you're saving your money. It's going to pay you big. It's going to give you crazy dividends, guys. So as always, stay the course, remain in the market, stay invested, and stay classy, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really love reading all of your comments, and I appreciate every single one, guys. So stay easy out there, and I look forward to hearing from you. See you in the next video. Stay classy. Bye.